The matter around sex and sport has been debated for many, many centuries. And the consensus of opinion among scientists is that the sexual act in itself, a day before major performance, is not detrimental to the performance, the act in itself. The problem, however, is if it is done in exaggeration, and of course somebody might get exhausted and not have the energy to do the work that they're supposed to do the following day, or people spend too much time looking for it, and that in itself can defocus them. So a lot of people who advocate for abstinence before a match, it is because of some of those things that are accompanying the act that might make it a little bit difficult and detrimental to the focus and to the physical ability to perform during a match. But there's no evidence to suggest that if you get players to sustain for a long period, that it increases or improves their performance. Which is why a lot of national teams will actually bring families, girlfriends or families into the camp. The French team did that also, and a few other teams even during the World Cup. I think the Moroccan team also did that, because there's a view that if players know that my wife is somewhere a few streets away, in another hotel, you can go and meet with your family after a training session or all that. It relaxes the players and gets them to focus on the match and perform better. So I think it works differently in different cultures, but it's something that needs to be managed. But there's no scientific evidence to suggest that the sexual act in itself will hamper performance negatively. Drugs in sport. I've been involved in this matter for the longest time in my career. And I understand exactly where world sports, in particular FIFA, is coming from. That the usage of drug-enhancing or performance-enhancing drugs is a problem, on the following accounts. One, it is that it is not fair, so it flies against fair play, where you want to compete and be better than other players, not on something that is fair, so on a playing field that is level. That is offensive. The second point is that some of the performance-enhancing drugs can be detrimental to your health as an individual who's using them, or they can be detrimental to the health of your teammates or your opponents. So from that point of view, it is detrimental. And thirdly, it is just a question of ethics, that when you want to play, you want to play on a fair level and ensure that you win because you have better tactics, or you're better prepared, or you just have luck on your side. So I agree with all of those factors. And I'm one of the biggest proponents of advocating for drug-free sport. And I think it's important that we should teach our children at a very young age that sport is there to be enjoyed. Sport is there for the health benefits, and sport is there to keep us competitive and to keep our minds stimulated at that level, and trying to achieve. How you get a player who has sustained a major injury, how they are able to deal with the threats that it puts to their career, and how they need to recover mentally, from that setback up to a point where they are able, at the mental level to go back into the sport and compete. You can imagine a player like Ramathesele who suffered, a fracture that we all saw in television, which was horrible to watch. And you break a leg in a tackle, and it takes you 6 to 8 months to heal, and then you must now go back into the sport and play again in a manner that that says you must forget about what happened to you previously. Now, all of that, are what comes into mental health in football, and we are not doing enough as a country to employ, to train, and to develop mental health experts who understand the South African player and who understand the sport. Also, how you get a player to operate in a foreign environment, whether you are playing in an away match as a South African player, in the continent. We've seen how our teams go and play in the continent, and the players are completely unnerved by all the things that they always claim they come up against in the continent, the treatment that they receive, match officials, and so on and so forth. And finally, how we get South African players to go and compete at the highest level in other parts of the world, whether to go there and join teams in other parts of the world or to go and compete as South Africa, as clubs or of the national team, to go and compete in a foreign environment where the culture and everything is different, but you still have to be professional enough and do a job. We do need to develop mental health to that level in South African football. Well, the other issue, of course, when it comes to mental health is how to educate our players to deal with the media. Because the media is important. The media is an integral part of our game. The funding that comes into the game comes because there's media interest in the game. So you cannot wish away the media. How players build their careers is based on what the media says about their career. And once the media focuses on you as an individual, you must understand that the media is going to focus on every aspect of your life. There's no such thing of saying, when I'm a player, I invite my media when things are going okay, when things are going bad, and the media now suddenly must not ask you questions. No, this is a personal matter. It doesn't work like that. Once the media takes an interest in you as an individual, it is you in totality, and therefore the manner in which you behave on and off the field becomes very critical, because it is of media interest, because your whole being is to a large extent defined by how the media sees you and how the general public sees you. So it's important that we should also train our players on how to deal with the media, and more specifically, how to deal with social media. Because social media is less controlled, social media can be more robust, and sometimes very vindictive, and players have to be very, very careful on how they deal with social media. And for that, in my view, they need professional advice. It's a very difficult thing to talk about, but appearance. People can only relate to you from what they see. People always talk about don't judge the book by the covers, but I said how else? Because you cannot open every book. So it's very important how you appear, and you have to dictate how the world sees you. But also how the world sees you and how you appear is also a factor of how you feel inside. If you are depressed, you're not feeling good, there's no way that you are going to appear, anything different in how you're feeling. So appearance is very, very critical. And I think because I entered my profession at a very young age, and also because I had a small stage, so I always was conscious that people have to take me seriously besides my youthful looks and maybe an appearance that did not suggest that I'm a professional and I know what I'm doing. So I learned the art of being professional in how I appear very early in my life. My gogo, Omangwenya, always taught me that you never know who you're going to meet. You could come out of your house to buy bread and milk in the morning at the shop next door, but you just don't know who you'll meet. So it's important that when you get out of your bedroom, always look as neat and as presentable as possible. But number two, I don't apologize about my love for the finer things in life, and I'm prepared to work hard for them. So I always take an interest in what happens out there, and I always take an interest in ensuring that, to the extent possible, I can appear and dress for my age, and be trendy wherever possible. But I'm also not afraid to break new trends where I can, whether it is wearing a chiffon, whether it's wearing a cravat, and whether it is wearing what we call a tie, which is buttoning up your shirt all the way up without putting on a tie, and all of those things. But it's very important. It should not drive us to be naive, but it's also important that you should be a professional as much as you can wherever you rock up. Robert, you've been to the stadium many occasions, and you've watched a lot of games on television, including South Africa's games. You know the difference between listening to the national anthem from home on television and being at the stadium. You know, it gives you a certain level of national pride and gives you a certain emotion and amount of national responsibility. But we also have to make a plea to South Africans. You know, we say so much about being a soccer-mad or a football-loving country, but we don't support our national teams. We only support Bafana Bafana when it starts winning games, and that's not when they need you. Bafana Bafana needs the supporters now. When we have a home game, I want South Africans to be like those Nigerians who will jam-pack that stadium by 9 o'clock in the morning and play, and you have 2,000 of them, each of them playing a drum. Because that unnerves your opposition. We, as South Africans, the spectators need to begin to understand the importance of ensuring that nobody comes to South Africa and get a draw even. I think a lot of negative things have been said about South African football, its quality, and our inability to make a mark on the continent, sometimes even on the region, and certainly our inability in the latter years to make an impact in international football. But I think in the main, we're saying we did it in 1990.